Okay, this is the homework help video for Math 3 Unit 7 Worksheet 3 continued. So the graphing one is on the first video, and so now I'm going to flip to the last page of this worksheet and go over questions 7 and 9. Okay, so this is the videos for question 7 and question 9. So here they want us to find derive the equation of the parabola with focus 0, 4 and directrix y equals -4. And so in order for us to do that, we want to use the definition of the parabola, right? The definition of the parabola. So we know the distance between a random point and its focus has to equal the same distance as that same random point to the directrix, right? So the point to the focus has to equal the distance between the point and the distance, or the directrix. Okay, so I know that for P, I'm always going to use a random point, so x comma y. And, oops, hiding that from you. So I know that the P, I'm always going to use some random point on the parabola, so that's going to be x comma y. They're giving me my focus, so my focus was the ordered pair 0, 4. And then my directrix, which is the line at y equals -4. So my directrix, I know that the y value, so this is my y value, is -4. And so then I'm looking at any point along that, so that would be x, right? It needs to match that x value there. So because y is -4, I don't know the x, so I'm just leaving that as x. Okay, so then this is enough information for me to create my equation. Okay. So for my equation, I'm going to write this out so I can see this better. So I know that PF has to equal PD, right? The distance between P and F has to equal the distance between P and D. And I know that my value for P is x comma y. So I'm looking over here, and my focus is 0, 4. And that again has to equal the distance between that same random point, x comma y, and the same random point on the directrix, which is at x -4. So when I set this up, then now I want to use the distance formula. So for my distance formula, I know that it's the square root of the difference between these. So I want to subtract these 2 points, so x minus 0 squared. And then I want to subtract the y value, so y minus 4 squared, right? So you do subtract your x's squared, subtract your y's squared. And then do the same thing for the other side of the equation. So I want to subtract my x's, so x minus x, and then squared, and then do the same thing over here as well. So y minus -4, and then squared. And then once I get to here, I want to go ahead and simplify this a little bit. So I'm going to do a couple things at once. So one thing I can do to get rid of the square roots is I can square both sides, and that gets rid of my square root. So squaring the root, squaring the root. And so then x minus 0 is just x, and then that's squared. And then y minus 4 squared, and again the root is gone. X minus x is 0, so when I do 0 squared, that's just going to turn into 0, so I don't need to write that one anymore. And then over here I have y minus -4, so that double negative is going to turn into a positive. And then once I get to here, I want to distribute and then combine like terms. So I'm going to distribute out the y minus 4. And then I want to do the same thing on this side as well. So multiply the y to both terms over here. So y times y is y squared, and y times -4 is -4y. And then distribute the -4 to both of those terms. So -4 times y, and -4 times -4. And then the same thing over here as well. So distribute these. And then I can go ahead and combine like terms, so -4y and -4y combine. And then over here, the positive 4y's combine. So then when I look at this, I want to try to simplify this even further. So I know if I were to subtract the y squared, so if I subtract y squared from both sides, those are going to end up canceling, right, because they're exactly the same. So I'm going to write it out anyways, just for the sake of the video. So So subtract y squared from both sides, and so those will both cancel. And then I can subtract 16 from both sides as well. And so then those both cancels. Okay. And then if I want to combine my y terms, then I want to add the 8y over, so it's not going to cancel, but will combine, right? And so then I'm just going to slide over to this side here. So I still have an x squared left on the left side of the equation. And then my y squareds went to 0, negative 8y and positive 8y is 0, and 16 minus 16 is 0. So the only thing left over here is x squared. And then over here, my y squared term and my 16 cancel, but leaving me with 8y plus 8y, which is 16y. And then my final step is to isolate the non-squared term. So I want to isolate the non-squared term, so I'm going to divide both sides by 16. And so then y would equal, there's an implied 1 here, 1 over 16 x squared. And there is my equation that is derived from the formal definition of a parabola. And then let's go ahead and do question number 9 as well. So for number 9, I'm doing the same thing again. So I'm doing the distance between the point and the focus is equal to the distance between the point and the directrix. So P is always some random point, so that would be x comma y. And then my focus is 0 comma 10. And then again the same random point, which is x comma y, is equal to the point on the directrix. So I know my y value is negative 10, and then it's going to be at just some x, right? So y is specifically negative 10, but I don't know the x. And so then now I'm going to evaluate or substitute these into the distance formula. So for my distance formula, I have the square root. I want to subtract my x's, so x minus 0 squared, and then subtract my y's, so y minus 10 squared. So we're just doing distance formula here, right? So we're subtracting the x's squared plus subtract the y's squared. And then do the same thing on this side as well. Subtract the x's squared plus subtract the y's and squared. So I have minus a negative 10 squared. So then I'm going to square both sides to get rid of my roots. So square gets rid of the roots. And so x minus 0 is just x, so I have x squared. And then I have y minus 10 squared. And I know I'm going to distribute, so I'm going to go ahead and write it out twice. And then over here, x minus x is 0, so 0 squared is just 0, so that's going to go away. And then the double negative is a positive, and then because it's squared, I'm going to write it twice as well. And then I want to distribute and combine like terms. So y times y times negative 10 times y, and negative 10 times 10. And then the same thing over here, I want to distribute. So y times y times 10 times y, and 10 times 10. Okay, and then I can combine my negative 10y's together and my positive 10y's. Alright, so then now I get to the point where I want to combine everything that will combine and cancel anything that will cancel. So I know I can subtract y squared from both sides. I can also subtract 100 from both sides. And then those will completely cancel, right? The y squareds will cancel, turning into 0, so will the 100ths on both sides. And then I can combine my 20y, so I'm going to add the 20y over to this side, where it will cancel and turning into 0 here, but will actually combine to 40 there. So the only thing I have left on this side is the x squared. And the only thing I have left over here is the 40y, so 20y plus 20y. And then I always want to isolate the non-squared term, so I want to get y by itself in this case, so I'm going to divide both sides by 40. So I would have y equals, and then there's an implied 1 here, so 1 over 40 x squared. And that's it for this homework help video.